Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We use websites every single day, right? We're scrolling through social media, reading the news, buying things online. But underneath all of those shiny graphics and smooth animations lies a highly structured, almost rigid blueprint. So today, we're going back to the basics to completely deconstruct that blueprint. We are diving into the core foundations of HTML to see exactly how the raw internet is actually organized. So think about this for a second. What invisible skeleton holds the internet together? If you literally strip away all the CSS styling and the JavaScript interactions, the web is essentially just a chaotic mess of text and files sitting on servers somewhere. Without a structural hero to step in and organize it all, your browser just wouldn't know a title from a footnote. Well, that hero is HTML, which stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It's exactly what provides the logic and structure that gives shape to all that data. All right, here's our architect's plan for today's build. 1. The structural web page framework. 2. Basic text and formatting. 3. Connecting pages with hyperlinks. 4. Displaying images correctly. And 5. Organizing content using lists.
Okay, let's dive right into this with Section 1, the structural web page framework.
Before you can write a single word of text, every valid HTML document absolutely requires an invisible skeleton to wrap around the visible content. You can't just throw words onto a page and hope for the best. You need a container to secure your plot of digital land. And that's exactly what these two essential tags do. Up at the very top, you declare the doc type HTML. Actually, quick fun fact here. Back in the early days of the web, these doc types were incredibly long, complicated strings of text. But HTML5 simplified it down to just this one clean line. It basically tells the browser, hey, read this properly. And right below that is the HTML tag. This acts as the root container. Think of it as the outer property line of our digital building where literally everything else is going to be constructed.
And this brilliantly illustrates the difference between the inside and the outside of our framework. Inside that root HTML container, we divide our property into two very distinct areas, the head and the body. The head tag contains your metadata and invisible technical info, like the title that shows up on your browser tab. The body tag, on the other hand, is the main container holding all the visible content, like text, images, and links that the user actually sees. So to put that into perspective, it's exactly like a house. The head is the hidden plumbing, the wiring, the foundation behind the walls, but the body, that's the visible rooms that the user actually walks through and experiences.
Moving right along to Section 2, Basic Text and Formatting. Now that our framework is completely solid, it's time to start putting up the drywall. The fundamental grammar of HTML relies on something called an HTML element. These elements are generally made of 3 parts: an opening tag, the actual content in the middle, and a closing tag. And notice how that closing tag is completely identical to the opening one, except it uses a forward slash right before the tag name. That slash is crucial. It signals that the element is finished. This grammar of tags acting in pairs is super important. Imagine putting your content securely inside physical shipping containers. The opening tag is the bottom of the box, and that closing tag with the forward slash, that's the lid snapping firmly shut. So now that we know how to pack our containers, let's look at the 2 most common text elements, headings and paragraphs. For headings, HTML uses tags ranging from H1 down to H6. Your H1 tag represents the absolute largest, most important title on the page, and it scales all the way down to H6 for the smallest little subheadings. Contrast that with the P tag, which just defines your standard paragraph of block text. These tags create an immediate structural hierarchy for the text on our walls. They tell the browser and search engines, too, by the way, exactly what is a main title, what is a subtopic, and what's just regular reading material.
But what if you want to emphasize something specific within that text? Well, that's where formatting tags come in. The strong tag applies bold formatting to really highlight specific words, while the M tag applies italic emphasis. The coolest mechanic here is nesting. You can literally open a paragraph tag, write out your text, open a strong tag for just one specific word, close it, and just keep on writing. It is an incredibly precise way to draw attention to specific details right inside your rooms.
All right, Section 3, Connecting Pages with Hyperlinks. Our rooms are looking great, but let's be real, a house with no doors isn't very useful, right? We need to connect to our pages with hyperlinks. Let's completely deconstruct this syntax step by step so it's not overwhelming. First, you use the A tag, which stands for anchor. Second, you have to add an attribute called href, which means hypertext reference, directly inside that opening anchor tag. This specifies your destination URL. And finally, right between the opening and closing tags, you insert the clickable text that the user will actually see. So what does this all mean? It means the href is the literal map to the next room. Without it, your anchor tag is just a door that leads absolutely nowhere.
Time to decorate. Section 4, displaying images correctly.
Okay, the doors are installed, people can navigate our layout, so it is time to hang some pictures on these freshly built walls. Now, what's really interesting here is how the image element totally breaks the grammar rule we learned earlier. Images use the img tag, sure, but it is what we call a self-closing tag. It doesn't require a separate closing tag with a forward slash. Why? Well, because you aren't putting text content inside a container box. The tag itself is the picture. The element doesn't wrap around anything, it just drops an image right onto the page at that exact spot. And because the image tag doesn't contain text, it relies entirely on two critical attributes placed right inside the tag itself. First is src, the source attribute. This provides the literal path or the URL to where the image file lives. Second is alt, which stands for alternative text. This is simply a text description of the image. Now, this alt attribute is absolutely crucial for screen reader accessibility for visually impaired users. Plus, it acts as a handy text backup, just in case the image fails to load on a super slow connection. Every properly built image tag relies on both of these attributes to display beautifully and remain accessible to everyone. And finally, Section 5, organizing content using lists. We are almost done with our build. We've got our foundation, walls, doors, and pictures. Now for the final step, organizing our loose belongings neatly into lists. HTML handles lists using wrapper tags, but there is one absolute, fundamental rule you have to remember. No matter what kind of list you are making, every single individual item in that list must be wrapped inside its own lists or list item container tags. You can't just write a massive block of text inside a list wrapper. It has to be neatly separated into these individual li boxes. So what are the wrapper tags that actually hold those list items? Well, we have two main choices. The first is OL, which stands for ordered lists. This one automatically numbers the items sequentially, 1, 2, 3, and so on. It is perfect for step-by-step recipes or rankings. The second is UL, or unordered lists. This displays the items with simple bullet points, which is perfect for when the sequence doesn't matter, kind of like a grocery list. Think about every website you visit, from your online banking portal to your favorite blogs. They all use these exact UL and OL tags to structure their navigation menus and organize their data. It's pretty wild when you think about it. And just like that, our structural skeleton is completely built. We have taken a chaotic, empty plot of digital land and laid down a proper, highly organized foundation. You now know the core blueprint for text, links, images, and lists. But right now, let's be honest, our building is just bare drywall and black and white text. So the question I'll leave you with is this. Now that the skeleton is perfectly sound, what kind of house are you going to build and how will you style it? That entirely new layer of web development is waiting for you next. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.